Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the country's biggest stars and some of my favourite people. And we really have got one for you today. Michael Whitehall is the man who's gone from gamekeeper to poacher, really. From the man who hired the stars for TV and for screen to becoming a star himself. Of course, father to Jack. He's now released a brand new book called Backing Into the Spotlight. And I'm delighted to say Michael joins us now. How are you?
I'm extremely well, thank you. Very fit and very well.
I would describe you as delicious.
Oh, well, I'm not sure about that.
No, maybe not. I'll tell you what it is about you. You don't want to be here, and that's what is so infectious. In a world where everybody wants to be a star and, more importantly, a celebrity, you're not really interested, are you?
No, I have to say I'm not. I mean, to be honest, if I had spent my whole life doing insurance or a solicitor or something, if I'd had a job, in other words, that had nothing to do with show business for all my life, and suddenly at the age of 75 my son became a famous comedian, that I've been at film sets for 45 years, and it's not anything that appeals to me. I think if it had appealed to me, I would have started it a bit earlier.
It's an extraordinary business, isn't it, where you can be the biggest star one day and nothing the next. You can be the front page news one day and then they don't care the next. It's so fleeting, and I think being an agent, you must understand that better than anyone.
No, absolutely, yes. I mean, the great thing, of course, about becoming slightly known, I don't use the word star or celebrity, but slightly known through Jack, is that I'll never probably be a has-been because I've left it a bit late. You say, God, do you remember whatever happened to him? He died. Oh, right, yes, of course. I've thoroughly enjoyed my life as an agent, but I never ever wanted to be in front of the camera. I mean, when I went and visited actors, I looked after, Daniel Day-Lewis and Colin Firth and the Foxes, Edward and James, and lots of quite well-known actors and actresses. And I used to go, obviously, as their agent, go and visit them in plays. And after the play, I go to their dressing room and have a chat with them. And then we go to the stage door to leave, and there will be a few autograph people around. And I never for one moment thought, oh, God, I wish I could have my autograph. Somebody would ask for my autograph. I'm just in the corner being elbowed out. I was absolutely delighted. Although there was one occasion when I came out of a dressing room, I've suddenly remembered, of a theatre in the West End with Judi Dench and her husband, Michael Williams. And everybody was asking for their autograph. And a little girl came up to me. She said, oh, excuse me, could I have your autograph? And I said, oh, you don't, honestly, you don't want my autograph, thank you, but very sweet of you to ask me. And she said, oh, no, please, I'd like to. And I said, why do you want my autograph? And she said, I just felt rather sad watching you standing there, nobody asking for your autograph. And I thought, how sweet.
And then I wonder about you and your life. It seems to me that you love being a dad more than you love being anything. You seem to be incredibly proud. Most people seem to be embarrassed by it and sort of annoyed by it, but with it coming late for you, that seems to be joyous, which is strange.
That's exactly, you've got it absolutely right, Alex, about coming late, because that's the thing that makes all the difference. I mean, when my children were at school, and Jack always makes out that I chucked them into boarding schools, because I didn't want to see them and all that rubbish. When you look at how much school fees are, I promise you nobody sends their children to boarding school to get rid of them. But because I was in my sort of I was in my sort of mid-late 40s, sort of early 50s during that time. I had a little bit of time to spend on them because I had a successful business. I didn't need to be in the office every minute. And I used to see a lot of them at school, and I went and watched them playing cricket, playing football and rugby, and went to school plays and all that sort of stuff. And I was never competitive with them. A lot of the fathers, because I was always the oldest father in the school, I was always the oldest person in the room. But I used to go and watch them, and there were quite a few parents who were good friends of mine, but they were very competitive with their children because, they were in their sort of 30s.
Right.
And so they wanted to beat their kids at tennis and beat them at squash and beat them and hit the ball all over the place. I was never anything like that. I didn't want to do any of those things. I just wanted to watch them being brilliant.
Well, you don't like any sport where you can't hold a drink in your hand, do you really? Let's be honest.
I quite like watching football.
Yeah, but that's not doing it, Michael.
No, certainly nothing to do. I have a very sporty wife, which is brilliant. She's the one, she used to teach the kids to play football and ride bikes and do all that kind of stuff. I was hopeless at any of that, but I'm very happy visually in the sports world. I'll always sit and watch something on television with a glass of wine, exactly.
I notice in the book that you refer to your wife with such adoration. It seems to me that you're surprised that anybody would find you attractive. Is that true?
I did have a certain following in my younger days. In fact, I was married quite briefly for 2 or 3 years, but in my 20s, but we didn't have any children. But I was quite surprised when I met Hilary, who was a young, aspiring actress, and quite a bit younger than me. I was quite surprised that she was so, attracted to me, exactly, but she was so fond of me, and I obviously thought it was because she was looking for a few jobs. So I was an agent, she was an actress, but I put that thought out of my mind when I realised that wasn't the case at all, and she's virtually, since she got married to me, has had to give up her career because she's had 3 children to look after. I was quite surprised.
Miracles can happen. That's the moral to that story. Exactly. You do make a good point, though, about the actor-agent relationship. It's a grubby time in show business at the minute. To be serious for a moment, did you ever come across any of that nonsense where you had to pull stars out of auditions because producers or even lighting men were being inappropriate?
Not really. I mean, there were sort of jokes in the business. I'm talking about in the sort of 70s and 80s, but they were kind of jokes about, if you went to see this agent, if you were a young actress and went to see this agent, he'd chase you around the desk a few times before you actually got to have a conversation with him. But it was all very, very lightweight, and in most cases not true. And I was truly not. I was never aware of anybody doing anything like that in those days. But I mean, clearly there were people doing it, but they never came into my. I think probably because without being too conceited, I was in slightly the high end of the business.
Right.
Even when I started, I was an assistant to one of the top agents in London. I think at that level. You'd never have got up to that level as a producer or a director if it was all based on chasing people around desks and worse than that.
The chemistry you've got with your son, particularly on screen, is so easy, it's so relaxed, it's so witty, it's so natural. That, of course, takes a lot of time and skill. Were you always funny, and were your parents funny with you like you are with Jack?
Yeah, they were kind of. My father had a very sort of dry sense of humour, and he was very amusing. I always had, this may have been one of the reasons why, although everybody very sweetly says what a top agent I wasn't that top. I was quite an acquired taste for actors as an agent. I think part of it was that I was a bit of I probably talked too much, and I was being funny and saying witty and amusing things, whereas really agents ought to just keep their mouths shut, just do good deals, stay in their offices and not go sort of flying around the place, being witty and amusing. I think Jack saw me at, we had dinner parties. I was always very social with my clients, and I used to ask them for dinner and stuff, which some agents didn't do, but I liked being friendly with them in that way. And I think Jack used to sit at the table sometimes and just think, yeah, they're all laughing and Daddy's completely different side of the business. I knew nothing about the comedy world at all, and it wasn't me pulling strings, because I didn't have any strings to pull in that world. But he really wanted to be a comedian, and he worked so hard at it. And the idea that he just sort of fell into it and became a big star was not true at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of terrible hard graft.
And it's a miserable life, isn't it, on the road? If you're one of those club comedians that's doing sort of 20, 30 people a night for 50 quid going around the country. Yet at the other end of it is Jack and these arena comedians that are filling 10,000 seats.
Yes.
It's an extraordinary time for comedians, thank God, because this wasn't around 30 years ago, was it?
No, it wasn't. And Jack was very lucky to sort of be there when it was really building up. But he did work. I mean, he'd be when he was living at home with us, he'd be with a group of friends, and they'd all be saying, "Why don't we go out for dinner tonight, or go out and do something tonight?" Jack would say, "Well, I can't come with you because I'm doing this gig in Tooting or somewhere in London in a pub." And he'd go off and do this gig, and then he'd come back, and I'd say, "How did that go?" And he'd say, "Oh, Daddy, it was awful. It was so depressing because it was a pub, and there were a lot of people there, and they were all talking to each other. And then I got up, except I didn't get up because it wasn't a stage. I was sort of talking to them at the same level as they were, doing jokes, and they were ignoring me. And oh God, it was depressing." But he said it was at least a gig, and I've got another one next week. And that's what he was doing when he was sort of, 18, 19, 20. And it was jolly hard.
He's now 29 and still calls you Daddy. Is that okay? Because if I called my dad Daddy, I think he'd probably either punch me or ignore me.
No, I quite like him being calling me Daddy. Yeah, I mean,
it's cute.
I think he only calls me Daddy too. I'm 77. I think if I was sort of 47 or something like that, they wouldn't be very macho. But when you're an older father, you see all your children all look after you and are nice to you all the time. The only person who thought it was really weird was that man, whose name I've forgotten now, called, not George Segal, he's called Steven Seagal.
Oh, there you are.
Steven Seagal, we met when we were doing that Travels with My Father show.
Yeah.
And Jack got very excited and said, "Oh, look, Daddy, that's Steven Seagal. I'm going to have it." And I said, "Who the is Steven Seagal? I've never heard of him." And he said, I'm sure you've seen or mentioned all these films I've never heard of. Anyway, he went over and he introduced himself. He was so excited. And then he turned over to me and said, "Daddy, come and meet Steve Seagal." And Steve Seagal looked at Jack and said, "You still call your father Daddy?" Which was kind of slightly weird.
Is it ever normal when celebrities know who you are before you introduce yourself? Because that is bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. Yes, I suppose it is. I mean, I do know quite a lot of people, obviously, through Jack, who I didn't know before. And I also, I do seem to, I mean, my fan base, to be honest, is Jack's fan base.
Right.
I mean, I don't have a lot of sort of 75-year-old fans who I meet when I'm having lunch at the Garrick Club or somewhere. my fan base is definitely like kids coming up to me in the street saying, "Oh, you're Jack Whitehall's dad, aren't you? That's so cool." So that's why the celebrity star thing doesn't really apply to me. I'm absolutely a sort of appendage of my son. And
could we rephrase that? An appendage? That doesn't sound very nice.
No,
you sound you're sort of dangling somewhere. I don't like that.
It does. It's a bit dangly, the word appendage.
This new book, Backing into the Spotlight, is utterly compelling and fascinating and tells the story of your life, really, which is wonderful. One thing that did interest me was the fact that the reason I think you've got such a great relationship, and we should remember, of course, you have two other children as well as Jack.
Brilliant.
What is beautiful about your relationship is that, as you say, you hadn't got that sort of busyness of being a 25-year-old dad, but at the same time, you are cracking on a bit. Do you worry about mortality and age and that you sort of at any point within the next 35 years might be gone? That's what I'm trying to say, Michael.
No, I don't really. I mean, obviously I know I'm going to be gone at some point, but no, I certainly don't sit around and think about death. I do sometimes wish that I was a bit younger for my children, but then they all say they love me as I am. I mean, and also once you start thinking, oh, if only I'd had children when I was in my 20s or something, but then the whole story would have been completely different.
Of course.
So no, I don't have any regrets of that sort. And I think part of the reason this all works is because of our age difference. I mean, doing that trip to the Far East was such fun, and I wasn't looking forward to it because I sort of thought I might run out of steam. It was quite, 5 weeks and going to places I'd never been to before, but I was thrilled that I didn't run out of steam, and I think it was a great time. Jack and I did plenty of bonding, and I absolutely loved it. I've got one annoying thing about my book, and that I could kill the publishers because for some reason they priced it at $18.99, which is the most ludicrous price I've ever heard for a slim volume like that. It should be $12.99. So what I'm urging everybody to do is to get it on Amazon, because at least they've reduced the price, because I'm really cross, because most of the people that will buy this book, I hope, will be quite young people, and they're not going to pay 19 quid for a book. Come on. Would you pay 19 quid for a book?
Certainly not. Well, I wouldn't talk to you if I had to pay to speak to you, or if I had to buy the book, I wouldn't have bought it. I got to be honest, Michael. I like you very much, but not that much, Times are hard and friends are few. I just love the chemistry between you and your son. I think your programs are wonderful, and I think you can spot sincerity a mile off, and you can equally tell when it's fake. And to see you two bond and be so naturally warm and loving towards each other is inspirational TV. Thank you for the memories with travelling with my father. The new book is wonderful, albeit very expensive. Backing into the Spotlight is out now. Get it on Amazon for $12.99 or $18.99 in bookshops. And nevertheless, it's a great read. You're a top man. It's been a great honour talking to you. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you, Alan.